Hello and welcome to Plumrocket tutorials. Today we'll learn how to set up the best local development environment on Windows 10. This will include WSL2 installation with Ubuntu, Docker and Devilbox, and Magento 2 with Wordpress. Here's the summary of 10 steps we will have in this video. You can learn it all in less than 1 hour. I hope you guys gonna like it and it's gonna be informative for you. So the first step is to update Windows 10 to version 2004. If your Windows is already updated to the latest version, then you have nothing to worry about. You can continue to step number 2. If not, then go ahead and follow this instruction. So first you need to type cmd and check your version. If your version is 10 and build number is less than 19041, in my case it's 18363 as you see, then you need to update your Windows. If it's not, then you're fine. The reason why you need to update Windows is because in the latest update 19041 you have WSL2. Another way to check your Windows version is to type winver in search command line, and here you see also the same information. The version in my case is the build number is 18363, and we need to update it to the latest version. So there's multiple ways of doing it, and the usual one that everyone knows is to go to the search bar again and type in Windows Update, and you'll get to the page, to the pop-up window where you can search and update every single new release, right? So in our case, you can hit the download button and you'll have to restart the Windows a couple of times and then it's gonna update it. But I faced one issue that I couldn't resolve. For some reason, whenever I went to this window, it would say that I have all the updates available and installed already. However, it wasn't the case because there were updates that were not available for myself. So I found another way. I think most of you probably also know about it. Just go to Google and type in Windows 10 download, and when you go to the page, Microsoft.com page, you'll find two buttons there. There's a button to update now and download tool now. So download tool is to install new Windows installation, and update now is to update it to the latest version. So hit update now, get the latest Windows 10 update. So here in my case, I see I clicked on update now. I have a executable Windows 10 download tool, and it's going to show up soon on the screen. Here it is. See, the Windows says Windows 10 Update Assistant. Click on update and it says my PC is compatible. So it's gonna take some time. It actually took me, I think, half an hour to update Windows to the latest version. But it's still better than, going through a lot of restarts, and you can do that too. It's fine too. It's just I did it this way, so it's up to you how you want to do it. So I speeded up this video. It's not that fast, and it will probably depend on your internet connection and your computer hardware. So in my case, see, it's already done. I clicked on restart now and it will restart the computer. So this is it. It's restarted, and hit the exit. It says your Windows is updated. So we'll do the same thing. We'll type cmd here and check the version. As you can see, my version is 10 and build number is 19041, which is the one we needed it. So it's great. Now we can go ahead and proceed to the next step. And the next step is to enable WSL in Windows. So go ahead and type in turn Windows features on or off, and you'll get to the Windows features window. Here you see I have two checkboxes that I need to check: Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is WSL, and Virtual Machine Platform, those two needs to be checked. So click OK. It's going to update it, and you'll be asked to restart your Windows again. So go ahead and restart it. And by the way, this will enable WSL1 and WSL2. We'll learn how to enable it in the next few steps. But for now, let's go to installation of Ubuntu for WSL. So that's the next step. WSL1 is enabled already. Click on Microsoft Store and search in the Microsoft Store for Ubuntu. Microsoft Store actually has a lot of Linux distributions available for WSL. You can also search for WSL, or you can search for Linux. So there is a, as you see on the right, I showed you a couple of logos of Debian, OpenSUSE, Fedora, a couple of others, Kali Linux. But we will be installing Ubuntu 18.04 today. So yes, so click, it's free, click on the Get button, and it will start downloading and installing it. Once again, I speed up the video so you don't have to watch me downloading it in real time. It's gonna take maybe a little longer for you. So once it's done, just hit launch, and it's going to install Ubuntu. And once it's installed, you can enter your username, your root password, and your root user. It's gonna take some time too. So here's your Unix username. You can do anything you want. So I did some Bob, and the password. Alright, so Ubuntu is installed. As you can see, I have Ubuntu on my Windows, which is great. Really cool. When I learned about this feature, I was really surprised and amazed. I didn't know about it before. So step number 4 is installing Windows Terminal. Windows introduced new Windows Terminal. Really cool application. We will install it now. If you don't have it, you don't have to install it, but I really suggest you to do it, so we will do it in this tutorial. So Windows Terminal allows you to have 3 different tools in one, which is a command line tool, which is a regular CMD. I'll show it soon. So here's Windows PowerShell, right? That's one thing. Then here's on the right, you have this arrow. You can switch to command prompt, and you can click again and switch to, for example, Ubuntu. So in one window I have 3 tabs for 3 different tools, and you can have more. If you have, you can actually install a couple of Ubuntus, and you'll have them all here. That's cool. And another thing that I will show it probably in another video, how to switch and how to go to file system from Ubuntu to Windows and back. You can access files from Linux files from Ubuntu. To Windows, and Windows files from Linux. So step number 5 is to enable WSL2 for Ubuntu. As I explained earlier, we enabled only WSL1. So you need to type in WSL -L-V. It will tell you that you have Ubuntu 18.04 running, and version of WSL is 1. We need to change this version number to 2. So the next step would be to type in WSL, set version, then name of your distribution, Ubuntu 18.04 in our case, it's displayed above. So just retype the same exact thing, and the space 2. And it's going to say it will take some time, but in my case it didn't go through because it says I need to update my Linux kernel. So as you can see, it says for more information please visit, and there's a link. So what I did, I copied that link and just opened it in the browser. So if you see the same message, you just do the same thing. Alright, so you just follow that link, and on Microsoft.com website you see there is an article updating WSL2 kernel, and you click on download the Linux kernel update package. So I did that, and it's pretty simple, just few times hit next and then install, and it's gonna go through without restarting the Windows. It will update your Linux kernel. So that's it, it's installed. And now you do the same thing, retype again set version Ubuntu 18.04.2 because you want WSL2 to be enabled in our Windows for this distribution, and it should do it. It's gonna take some time too. As you can see, I speed up my video again, and it's done. Conversion complete. So when I type in again WSL-L-V, it should tell me the version 2 is now enabled for my Ubuntu. And WSL2, according to Microsoft, is at least 5 times faster than WSL1. So you should definitely enable it. So next step is installing Docker and Docker Compose in Ubuntu. So first thing, we need to update our packages. We'll type in sudo apt update. And by the way, I will have all those commands in my in our blog, so you don't have to really retype them from the video. And the next thing would be sudo apt upgrade. Do that too. And once all the packages are updated to the latest version, you can go ahead and install build essential package. Alright, so the next step would be to install Git. And Ubuntu comes with Git. So most likely you'll get the same message as I have, that it's already installed. So nothing needs to be done. And I have been applying, there's this global configuration that I decided to apply. I found it somewhere online. It's suggested to have this configuration done when you're working on Linux and then you switch to Windows, and if you commit something, it will add automatically end line to your commits. So you don't have to do it, but it was suggested that it's a good thing to do, so I have done it too. Alright, the next thing would be to install Docker. There will be a couple of commands too. The first thing, we need to download Docker, and we do it by enabling the repository. So let's update our packages. Then we need to enable the Docker access for to Docker repositories over HTTPS. After that, we will download the GPG key. Docker, for security purposes, we'll add Docker GPG key. It's the next command. And I'm copying them, I'm not retyping them. There's no need to do that. So this is what I did. Yeah, I copied that down. And then the next step would be to check the fingerprint. It's also for security, just to make sure you're dealing with the right package. So once you do that, you can go to the next step, which would be to set up stable Docker repository. So we're adding this Docker repository. Then again, update the list of packages. Sudo apt update. And then the last one would be to finally install the Docker. It should be sudo apt install docker ce. Alright. And the last step after installation of the Docker, we will have to add our user to a Docker group. This is a suggested step by from a Devilbox. So here I will do next command sudo group add docker. You need to switch to Ubuntu and type sudo group add docker. And in my case, Docker group already existed, so I went to the next step, which would be to add my user to this group. So I went through. Now you need to restart and your Ubuntu to apply the changes, but I didn't do that. So I went through and started using different functions such as new group Docker, and decided to start the Docker service. Sudo service docker start. And the last command I'm using is I'm trying to start image, Docker image, testing image called run hello world image. And as you can see, it says this message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. So if you get the same message, it means your Docker is running correctly. Alright, the next step would be to install Docker Compose. In order to do so, we need to go to GitHub and check the latest release version. So in my case, I had the latest release was 1260. So I copied that number, 1260, into Notepad or any other text editor. And then I took another command where I replaced this number. So you'll see me now going to Notepad. So I took that 126 number, which is the latest release version, and then I took sudo curl, and I'm replacing here the download link the version of my Docker Composer. So then I copy that and I open the Ubuntu terminal and then I type it in. So it downloaded and installed the Docker Compose. After that, you have to make it executable. So you do sudo chmod, and then to check if it's installed correctly, just check the version. It says I have 1260 installed now, which is good. So after you have a Docker and Docker Compose, you can go ahead and to the next step, and the next step would be to install Devilbox. And I'll be installing Devilbox on Ubuntu because that's where I have my Docker installed. If you would install Docker on Windows, you can have Devilbox on Windows as well installed. So I went to Ubuntu and I decided to install it in my home directory. So just you can copy commands from my blog as well, but if you wish, you can also go to official Devilbox website. They have amazing documentation. So just follow that documentation how to install Devilbox. So first I cloned Devilbox from Git, and then you go to Devilbox folder and copy the environment file. So I'll type in cp env example, that's the example file they have, and copy the file. After that, you have to check your user ID and your group ID number in Ubuntu. Those numbers needs to be used in environment file. So go ahead and open environment file and search for UID. As you can see, my new user ID and new group ID exactly the same as the default ones. So I don't need to change anything, and I believe it will be the same for you if you follow this tutorial exactly. So nothing to do for me, but if your numbers would be different in Ubuntu, you would need to change them in environment file. So after that, we can go to the next step and try to start our first Devilbox Docker images. So you do that by typing docker compose up. This will launch Docker images, the default ones that are set up in the environment file. So in my case, the default ones are PHP, MySQL images, and there's others that will be started. And once they started, you can go ahead to your Devilbox intranet. So in order to get to the intranet, just type in localhost or 127.0.0.1, and then you'll get to the intranet. In the Devilbox intranet, you can view the enabled images. There's much more than that, and as you can see, I have Bind, PHP, Nginx, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Redis, Memcached, and MongoDB. And then also you have links on top, home, virtual hosts. I have no virtual host yet. Emails, databases, info, and tools on top. So emails are all emails that are sent from your projects will be automatically displayed here. So I think catch all is enabled by default, so they will be shown there. Databases, you can reach PHPMyAdmin from here, things like that. So the next step would be to launch our first website in Devilbox. This tutorial also available on Devilbox website, but I decided to show you here as well. Maybe it's gonna help someone. So let's go to Ubuntu again, and the first thing we need to get to Devilbox folder. And once we're in the Devilbox, you want to go to a data folder. Data folder is where all the projects will be stored. And here you can create your own folder. Inside of 3W, we will create my test. And once you create this folder, Devilbox will automatically create a virtual host. So let's just update it here. As you can see, it's already picked up. It says virtual host is there, but htdocs is missing. So they require htdocs folder inside of your project folder. So we'll go back and create htdocs here. So you can see I have htdocs. Let's again refresh it. It's going to say that we couldn't find the host record. So in Windows you have etc host file where you can type in all the hosts. So just do notepad and run it as administrator, and then go to C Windows System 32 drivers etc and open your host file. Alright, so here's my empty host file, the default one. Here we need to enter our IP address and the name of our project. So in our case it's 127.0.0.1 space and the name of our project, just my test .loc. Once you do that, you refresh and it still will say that there is an error. It's still missing. And the reason is because your Ubuntu needs to have the same record. And why we started from Windows is because in WSL, all host records are copied automatically on Ubuntu start. When Ubuntu starts, they copy from Windows. So if you, for example, make changes in Ubuntu file, etc host, and forget to do the same with Windows, they'll be erased. So that's why we're gonna go to Ubuntu now. To the etc host, that's where our hosts are located, and edit that file. But you don't really have to do that. If you just restart Ubuntu, they should automatically synchronize from Windows. So once you restart Ubuntu, it will copy the Windows host file. So in my case, I have only 127.0.0.1 for localhost. And as you can see on top, it says this file was automatically generated by WSL. So there is no need to do it manually here, but if you don't really want to restart Ubuntu, you can just do it here, and then it will, after restart, it will copy the Windows file. So just make sure to enter the same data in both files. Alright, so in my case, I didn't add anything because I wanted to show you how to restart Ubuntu. There is no simple way to do that. The official manual said that you need to restart your Windows in order to restart Ubuntu. And because I didn't want to obviously restart Windows each time I add new new virtual host, I found a way, and it's available online, you can find it too probably, to restart Ubuntu. And in order to do so, you need to restart the process, WSL process, because closing the window won't help. So here I'm stopping everything. I'm stopping Docker containers. I'm removing Docker containers. Now I'm going to services, searching and finding, and you need to find a service that starts with L, LXS Manager. Just hit right click and restart it. This will restart the Ubuntu. So if I close it now, go back to Ubuntu, Windows Terminal. As you can see, it's loading. So now Ubuntu is launched. Now if I go to etc host, you will find that the host records from Windows were copied to Ubuntu automatically on Ubuntu start. So right here, as you can see, there's my test LOC. I didn't add it here, but it was copied from Ubuntu. From Windows. So here, that's it. But like I said earlier, you can do, if you don't want to restart the service and go back, you can basically just enter the same information in both files in Ubuntu and Windows, and it will be the same thing as I did here. So here I will be starting Docker service, and I will start Docker images, but this time I will type in HTTPD only, PHP, and MySQL. And only 3 or 4 in my case, because bind is also launched, will be started. This all information is available on Devilbox website documentation, so you can find it there too. So now I restarted, still the same issue, what's going on. And the reason of this issue is because you need to also edit the environment file. This is not explained in on Devilbox website. At least I couldn't find this information, so I kind of was lucky to ask a question on one of the forums, and one guy gave me a hint how to fix this. I will post big thanks to him in the description section of the blog. So here basically you go to environment file of your Devilbox and you look for listen IP, I think it's called. Let's see. So right below Devilbox path. Right here. It says local listen address. So here you need, for some reason, it requires you to enter 127001 as in value. So I just copy it, and don't forget to type colon at the end. So it has one, so it should be 127001 and colon. So, and once you just save changes, once you do that, it's gonna work fine. And you don't need to do it afterwards. Once you save your changes, it will apply to all future websites. So just save it, and now you need to start your Docker containers, sorry. And that's it, they're started. Now if you go back to intranet, get a valid message, okay. So now our next step would be to add at least some index file in our project so we can see the results. So let's go back to the Devilbox folder, data 3W, and open our project folder, htdocs. And I will create here an index.html file just as a test, so you can see it's working. Alright, and once it's saved, you can open the page from here, and as you can see, it works. So our first project was done successfully. Your Devilbox is configured, and we can continue to the next step. And I decided to install Magento 2. So installation of Magento 2 is also described on official Devilbox website. Just go to Google, type Devilbox Magento 2. You'll find documentation here as well. But it's always great, I think, to see it on video, so that you can reassure yourself that you did everything right. So sometimes some people may miss a couple of things here, and one of the main requirements for simple and quick installation is to switch to Apache instead of Nginx. And you can do that by going to environment file. So by default, Devilbox is configured to start Nginx, and if you could see it in my one of the previous steps when I showed you what was started. So Nginx was started by default, Docker image of Nginx, but we need for Magento, we need Apache, so we'll switch it in the environment file. Of course, you can also set up Nginx to work with Magento, but for the purpose of this tutorial and to make it simple, we'll just switch the Docker image and we'll use the Apache instead. So we'll go back to Devilbox folder, open environment file, and as you can see here I have variables, HTTPD server. So HTTP server right now Nginx table. I'm going to comment it out and uncomment line where it says Apache 2.4 and hit save. So once you save changes, you can continue installing the I'm stopping here my Devilbox images, Docker images and deleting them to restart the Docker images again, because I want to apply the new configuration changes. So once I restart it, it doesn't have the Docker image of HTTPD Apache 2.4, and that's why it's downloading it and it's starting it. Everything is started. And now if I go back to the Devilbox intranet and hit refresh, see right now I have Nginx here. If I refresh, I see Apache now. So Apache image has been started. Now I can continue to the official manual how to install Magento 2 on Devilbox. So I will go ahead and enter the PHP container. You need to go to Devilbox folder and type in ./shell. Once you do that, you'll enter PHP Docker container, and from here you can continue installing your Magento. So I'll create a Magento folder first inside of 3W data 3W, so my project will be created. Now I'll go back to Magento and download it from GitHub, right? So it's downloading it. And by the way, when I did that same thing, git clone on my Macintosh, and I've tried cloning also using git command there, it was, I think I had 2 megabits per second speed, and here as you can see I have 6.79. so Ubuntu is a lot faster for me, and Windows was really slow. Windows I think was cloning like at 1 megabit per second. So Git on Windows was super slow. So here I'm going to Magento folder, and I'm going to check out the latest version. At this point of time, the latest version of Magento is 2.3.5. It's going to be different for you probably, so just do whichever version you want. And now we'll install. Alright, so we went through. The next step here is shown as it's display the structure, category structure. Doesn't really matter. I don't know why they're doing this, but let's follow their tutorial. And next step would be to create htdocs symlink. So you go to the My Magento folder and run this command to create symlink. Now if you look at the category structure, you see htdocs is a symlink to Magento 2. So now our Devilbox will function properly. Next step is to create my SQL database. We'll copy that command. We will be creating database for Magento called My Magento. And here's no password needed, so I just hit enter. By default, there is no password for my SQL in Devilbox. The next step is to add our host record. So we need to go back, remember I showed you, we need to go back to host file. And add a record here. So just open it up. Alright, so don't forget to open it as an administrator. So I'm opening it up, copying the same thing here, adding my new virtual host, saving changes, and this time I will not be restarting my Ubuntu using the method I showed you earlier with services. So I will just go a simple way. I'll go to etc host and add a record there as well. So here I'm opening another Ubuntu tab. Alright, and I'm just gonna add another line in the same file, 127001, and then my Magento LOC. Okay, so it's the same exact line as in Windows. Now, host files are updated. You can go back to virtual host tab. As you can see, I have two domains, my test and my Magento, and nothing else left here in the documentation. So you can just go back to Magento and continue installing it. So I'll go back. Start installation. Says everything is fine, you have all the software installed. So here I will change the localhost to the one we had at during the installation. As you can see in the command, it's 127001. So I'll replace it with the IP address. The username is fine. The password, there's no password, so nothing needs to be entered there. Database name needs to be changed, because in the official documentation it was my Magento, so I'll do the same thing. I'll copy it from here. Alright, and just hit next. Alright, here you can leave it this way, but I decided to change it. So my Magento admin address will be my admin, and nothing needs to be done here. So hit next. I didn't change anything here too, so hit next as well. So now from here, just you're ready to install it. Hit install now, and it's going to install the Magento. You can open console log to view what's going on. And I also speed it up. I think the installation took like a minute or so. So as you can see, it's now installed and you're ready to use a Magento. Hit the link and you'll see the homepage. For me, I think the first time I opened the Magento, it was loading pretty slow. It took, I think, almost half a minute in the first load. But next time after I refreshed it, it was really fast. So I assume it was creating some caches. As you can see now, after I click on different links, it runs pretty fast, so nothing to complain about. Alright, and same thing for the admin panel. Took some time to load it at the beginning, but after it loaded, then it worked fine. So I will enter my username and password for Magento. And as you can see now, I go from one page to another in the admin panel. Alright, so I think we're done with Magento. Now let's go to the last step here. It will be installing WordPress on Devilbox. So do the same thing. Type in on Google Devilbox WordPress. You'll find official manual how to do it. basically the same process as Magento installation. So go again to our shell, and here we go back to our Devilbox folder, and I hit enter here just for you to see how we got to shell, just in case you skipped the step with Magento. And for those who skip Magento step can see exact same steps for WordPress. So you go back to shell, and you must create a WordPress folder to create a virtual host. So we'll be creating a WordPress folder. Next step would be to enter WordPress folder and download WordPress from a GitHub. Alright, and it's downloaded. Now we'll need to create a symlink again. The same thing we did for Magento, we need to create symlink to htdocs folder. So there'll be htdocs symlink to WordPress get. Now the next step is to create MySQL database. So you copy the same command to MySQL, create MySQL database mywp, no password, just hit enter, and now you open a notepad as administrator, and go to host file, Windows host file. We'll need to create again a record here, a DNS record for our new website. So in our case, website called my-vp.log local. So just save it and do the same thing in Ubuntu. If you skip previous step, I explained it there, so I'll explain it here as well. So instead of restarting Ubuntu and applying Windows host file, transferring Windows host file to Ubuntu using Ubuntu tools from WSL, I just decided to re-enter the same exact thing in both files. So this saves time. And once we are done with host, we can continue to WordPress installation, I believe. So refresh the virtual host. As you can see, it's created, everything is fine, no errors. Now go and open myvp.loc. So here we have WordPress. Click continue. Let's go, and we'll need to change the WordPress database name to the one we used during the database creation. And we also need to change our local host to the IP address. So let's go back to our WordPress again. So here's the database host is 127.0.0.1, and database name is the one we have here, my_wp. So you need to change it here too. Alright, username, I believe username is root, and no password, just erase it. Alright, submit, run the installation. Now the website title, anything you want. I think I wasn't sure what to enter there, but yeah, just type anything. And then you need to enter your username and password. The last thing is to enter your email address. So once you're done with that, you can install WordPress, and it says success. If you log in, you can log into admin panel with your username and password. As you can see, WordPress installation is so much faster and easier than Magento, and WordPress is just simply super fast on in this setup. Here's the front end. So I think it looks great. I hope this tutorial was useful for you guys. I plan to post another video on how to install sample data, how to set up SSL on Devilbox, how to access files from Linux on Windows, and how to access files from Windows being on Ubuntu. There'll be maybe a couple more things, but those are the main things I believe we will include in the next video. So hope you guys liked it. Please hit like, share, and comment. Thank you. Bye bye.